Дойче Думков, ты еще увидишь, как из-за твоей продажной глупости, Анна-Лена Бербок, Берлин будет гореть.
Надо как-то сделать так, чтобы американские солдаты начали гибнуть.
Да мы сотрем в порошок Варшаву и Вильнюс.
Почему мы признаем Францию в ее границах?
Как я хочу посмотреть, чтобы Урсулиха фон дер Ляля корчилась с куском беспилотника в глотке.
Когда на сегодняшний день мы говорим, что война будет безъядерной, мы, наверное, лукавим.
По количеству на душу населения, правда, Канада ее опережает, но Америка – это мировая держава по дебилу.
Я сейчас требую спалить Берлин.
Is Russia that far from Europe? Territorially, yes, but in terms of territorial claims, it is much closer than you might think. Russia has built an extensive propaganda network to obscure its crimes and disseminate false narratives supporting its aggression. And the Kremlin's leading mouthpieces such as Vladimir Solovyov, Margarita Simonyan, Olga Skabeyeva and others spread these narratives, often crossing the line by resorting to hate speech. For example, on this TV show, the prominent Kremlin propagandist Vladimir Solovyov promoted genocidal sentiments justifying the potential deployment of nuclear weapons against the UK. I can tell you what it will look like. A Poseidon, a 30-meter-high radioactive water wall, washes the whole of the UK to hell. Then they have to learn to live in the conditions of radioactive washout. This is just one example of Solovyov's nuclear threats against Western countries, including the UK. And here is his reaction to NATO's drills. Today, large-scale NATO exercises have started, within the framework of which a scenario of an armed conflict with our country will be practiced. I would like this scenario to be very short. The scenario goes like this. You start concentrating, and we will nuke the hell out of all of them. And don't tell me about their civilians, and their this and that. They want to destroy us. They are directly talking about destroying Russia. They are gathering NATO for this purpose. They must realize we are not going to play with them. We don't care. 4 months of maneuvers, 31 countries, 900,000 troops. Nuclear weapons shouldn't care about that. If it doesn't work as a deterrent, then it should work as the great leveler. Interesting, isn't it? How in the 21st century, in the era of Elon Musk and shuttles to Mars, Solovyov openly calls for nuclear strikes on European countries without even thinking about the consequences and punishment. But Solovyov is not the only one. Another odious host of the 60 Minutes TV program, Olga Skabeyeva, said that Russia can pursue its strategic interests regardless of international laws, potentially instilling fear in the West.
It will not only reach the moon, it can also blow up the moon on the way. My point is that every time we tell ourselves about international law, about international agreements, that we are decent people, well-mannered people, we will not withdraw from anything. What for? According to the latest information, we will not become friends with the West in the near future. And I have a feeling we won't ever. Let them at least be afraid, not realizing what we are capable of. But we say, we won't do this, we won't do that. Here we have red lines. Here we have maroon lines. Here we love you, here we remember you. We don't love you, we don't remember you, we act as we wish in our own interest. Let them beware.
How terrifying! Maroon lines. Skabeyeva's rhetoric clearly reflects a blatant disregard for international law and a consistent pattern of issuing threats and engaging in blackmail against the civilized world. And she couldn't care less about rules and decency, because as the saying goes, money doesn't stink. And a little later, in another episode of the program, Skabeyeva gloated over the news that the US intelligence revealed that Russia is developing a space-based anti-satellite nuclear weapon.
We have come to the point of thinking that this war will be everlasting as long as the Americans are watching the war from afar. In order for them to feel the danger too, we must create some kind of existential threat to Washington in the first place. And in this regard, Moscow, it is not known for certain. Washington says it, is striking an asymmetrical blow. Instead of advancing meter by meter, we will of course continue to advance on the front. We're taking a decisive step to the side. We're talking about creating a space constellation, weapons in space. They formulate it differently. Whether it will be nuclear weapons, I will say once again, no one has officially told us here in Russia yet, and whether it will be officially announced is also a big question.
Actually, this is not a step aside. This is stepping on the same spot. because anti-satellite weapons have existed almost as long as satellites have. But as we break down this rhetoric, it becomes absolutely clear that Russia poses a threat not only to Ukraine, but to the entire world. And the toxic narratives promoted by such Kremlin mouthpieces serve as channels for Putin's information warfare against Ukraine and its allies, leading to escalating tensions on a global scale. That's why in the face of looming threat from Moscow, the civilized world must join forces to counter Russian aggression both on the battlefield and on the information front. After all, there is no other recipe against the world of lies than courage. Alexander Sherba.